You need to be more flexible. That's what HR told me. Not more productive. Not more efficient. Flexible. So, I was just probably not in the way they expected. It all kicked off after a big project deadline shifted. And it wasn't my fault. Another department handed over their part of the work late, which threw the whole schedule into chaos. Naturally, leadership was frustrated, but instead of digging into the root cause of the delay, they called a big, vague meeting. And somehow, flexibility became the buzzword of the day. A few days after that, I got an email, a one-on-one with HR. The tone in the room was calm, almost casual. "We've received some feedback," they started, "that you can be a bit rigid when plans change." Rigid. That was the word they used. I asked for specific examples. They said, "Well, you tend to push back when deadlines move." I had to clarify, "You mean I ask for an updated scope and written confirmation of the new timeline?" They nodded slowly. Yes, that. In their corporate dictionary, flexibility apparently meant something very different. It meant accepting constantly shifting deadlines without adjusting my workload. It meant absorbing extra tasks without any official documentation. It meant delivering the same high-quality output but with significantly less time. Most of all, it meant not asking too many clarifying questions. In other words, just agree quietly and get it done. I didn't argue. I didn't get defensive. I just looked at them and said, "Understood." And from that day forward, I became extremely precise. If a manager sent an email saying a deadline had changed, I'd immediately reply with, "Confirming the new due date is this Friday at 3 p.m. To meet this new timeline, please advise which of my other existing priorities should be." If the scope of a project suddenly expanded, my response was instant. Noted the additional requirements. Please confirm the corresponding timeline adjustment to accommodate this new work. There was no emotion in my emails. No sarcasm, no attitude, just pure, unadulterated structure. And a funny thing started to happen. People began to hesitate before changing things on the fly. Why? Because now, every single shift required a formal, written response from them. Every new, small request forced them to clarify priorities. My so-called flexibility was no longer invisible, unpaid overtime. It was documented. Sure enough, about 2 weeks later, I got another calendar invite from HR. "We've noticed a significant increase in your formal emails lately," they said. Looking a little concerned, Ehuzd smiled. "I'm just ensuring alignment across the teams." What could they say to that? Alignment is a good thing, right? They couldn't really argue with it. After about a month, something really interesting happened. Project timelines started to stabilize. That constant scope creep we all complained about, it decreased. Those last-minute fire drill changes, they slowed to a trickle. The reason was simple. Every single change triggered a precise confirmation email thread, and once everything was documented in black and white, leadership could finally see exactly how often priorities were being shuffled around without any thought. It all came to a head during a quarterly review meeting. One of the directors looked at a chart and asked, "Why are so many of our projects being adjusted mid-cycle? This is causing a lot of inefficiency." I didn't say a single word. I just pulled up the change logs. Date, time, who requested the change. The adjustment made, the patterns became glaringly obvious. Before all this, I was the one quietly compensating for the chaos. I was the one staying late, redoing work, and fixing messes caused by poor planning. I was being flexible. Now, every single adjustment required a conscious trade-off, and those trade-offs made the true cost of their flexibility visible to everyone. The corporate messaging started to change. Instead of just be more flexible, we started hearing things like, "Let's work to minimize scope changes," and "We need to lock in our deadlines earlier in the process." And my personal favorite, "Let's improve our cross-team planning." Funny, isn't it? My behavior hadn't really changed, but the framing around it did. My own manager pulled me aside one day. "You know," he said, "things have felt more structured lately, more organized." I just replied, "I'm prioritizing clarity," and that was the end of it. No big confrontation, No dramatic showdown. Just clarity. 3 months later, the difference was night and day. We had fewer emergency meetings. Our timelines were clearer and more realistic. My workload was finally balanced, and our delivery became way more predictable. Nothing dramatic ever happened. I never got an apology. There was no big I told you so moment. What I got was something much better. Improved systems. HR told me to be flexible. So I became extremely precise, because sometimes true flexibility isn't about bending until you break. It's about making the bend visible. And once it's visible, it gets managed. Thanks so much for watching. If this story resonated with you, let me know in the comments. And don't forget to like and subscribe for more content like this. See you in the next one.